Hi, I'm Andy.
And I'm Mark.
Today we're talking about rodent control issues in climate-controlled storage.
Welcome to the Earth Conscious Prevention Show, coming to you from the Urban Entomology Lab at Perimatech Pest Management in Syracuse, New York. Pest management advice for commercial and residential facilities.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about rodent control in this case in climate-controlled storage. We had a client that came to us and had a rodent issue at their climate-controlled storage facility, a really large facility, lot of units, a lot of variables. We found the situation from the previous pest control operator just wasn't sufficient. There wasn't enough control going on, and they called us in to try to solve the ongoing problem. And I know you guys, you and Paula did the initial service and set things up. And we were hoping to find pretty quick results. And then we found ourselves in a little bit of a battle after we had sealed it up. What did you guys find there?
So initially, when we did the install, we added a bunch of stations, permanent, temporary, to really get bait available to the entire building, rather than just corners or mid sections of the building.
So that's what it was before, like kind of four corners.
Yep.
You had like a couple of rodent stations here and
throw
there.
Some bait stations and some corners and some
good to go.
Some monitoring devices midway through the hallways, which was just not sufficient into getting the bait or control devices to where the mice were active. And so right off the bat, do some exclusion, seal up these pipe chases.
So you took away the option or the possibility that mice were coming in from outside.
Correct.
That was eliminated. We excluded.
It's a new structure.
Place is sealed
it's
up.
in good condition. So at this point, the only way the mice are getting in is through the front door. Okay. Now, is that they're walking through the front door, or is that they're being transported through that front door?
Right. And they say volunteers or captives. Do
Sure.
they come in voluntarily, the door open, and
Sure.
mouse scoots in, or were they in something? And I think in this case, we had the contention they were in something.
Yeah.
And we had to really prove that, didn't we?
Yeah, and the exterior bait stations help show that. There wasn't a lot of feeding around the exteriors, so the population around the building doesn't show to be much, so there's not a lot of pressure coming into the building.
Yep.
What we found was we had hot spots throughout the structure, and a lot of those hot spots were also in relation to delinquent units that had been sitting there for a while. And
so storage units that had stuff in them, but nobody was maintaining them. Somebody had put their stuff in there, left it, and they stopped paying. When you said delinquent units, that means that the person kind of abandoned them. They're never coming back.
Probably not coming back, or can't afford it, or whatever the situation was.
They said, grandma's dresser is gone. I'm done with it.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And so for the first 2 months, we did have a big we had an initial strike of a lot of activity, and then we watched that fall off for about 2 months. And then what happened was we got into moving season, which I call moving season, basically May to July. There's a lot of movement. People are renewing leases, getting to new places, and we had a spike of activity. And so over the last 6 months, we've been dealing with this spike of activity, and it's been a lot of due diligence, writing down what units are showing this activity on these stations, documentation. And really what we came to the conclusion is you have a few of these units that are breeding grounds, right?
So a harboring area.
Areas.
We found a couple epicenters.
We as they had some people actually show up and get their stuff out of places, they found food in some of these units. And so eventually the delinquent units, the units people weren't paying for, they wound up having auctioned off, and found food resources, huge food resources.
Now, we got to talk about that because when you came back and told me initially about this, it was a little shocking. We knew that there had to be some kind of resource in these units. As much as we were being told, no, they're not supposed to
There's
steer
rules,
food. There's rules. We knew based on the data we were collecting at all our stations, that something wasn't adding up.
Right.
And like I always say, it's never magic. It's never like it's. There's some scientific reason why it's happening. And so when they opened up, talk a little bit about that. What kinds of things did we find in there?
Everybody that was on site kind of has the same story of amazement, right? Finding a case of ramen noodles that is completely eaten, but looks like it's never been touched. All the packaging is still all together. Water bottles, a case of water bottles, all empty, all chewed through the bottom. A bag of dog food. Yeah. Emptied, looks like it's a full bag. They go to pick it up and it's empty.
Right. And this kind of confirmed what we had been saying kind of all along, that if there's a food resource like that that's so ample, that mouse may constrict its entire life to 15 to 20 feet.
Yeah.
30 feet at the most. So the size of that storage unit with enough habitat in there and enough food, which they obviously had, they may never leave that. They may just breed until they exceed the holding carrying capacity of that unit, and then we'd see this constant trickle out of those units.
Which is why it never really, once it got going, wasn't slowing down, because you had enough of a breeding population that you were just sending out, the young, the juveniles, that type of stuff, as they were trying to expand their territory, or being pushed out of their areas. Those were the ones that we were taking care of. Yeah. We weren't able to get to that breeding population that had all the food in the world and were happy in their habitat.
Yeah.
They weren't leaving those units.
Yeah.
And so, the best thing that could have happened, right? They went through, disturbed a bunch of these units by auctioning them off, causing those populations to kind of shift and move, getting rid of food resources. And so now we've pushed that activity into these bait stations, into mechanical devices, and been able to see, even in just a 2-week period, about 50% of activity.
A reduction. Yeah.
So, we're going to continue to monitor this, but we expect that this is going to be continuing trend for the next couple months, that we're going to find less and less as these, food sources have been removed. Right. And these harborage areas have been dealt with.
Yeah. Now, really critical to this was data collection along the way, and that told a story to us. We had a good spread of devices and control stations. We were able to collect data from all those and point us in the direction of what the source of this continuing activity was. And moving forward, we're kind of moving towards some recommendations for them on how to make this a little better.
The collection of information was vital to what we were doing. I mean, we came into a situation where there was already a frustration level. They were already having repercussions for the activity that was within the building. So we needed to be able to help solve that. And, when you're in that difficult situation of, well, okay, I've hired you, I've done your recommendations, and we still have a problem. Why? You got to come up with answers. And data collection and having that information is really what's going to be your best friend in that. And then when you have a situation where now they've auctioned off units, they've got to see what were in these units, and the damage that was caused from them, it all comes together for them. Where it already was together for us. We already had a good idea of what was going on. They got the proof that they needed. Right.
And so sometimes that's that proof that really locks it down, and people will start to realize a little bit, oh my goodness, there's management decisions that we can do differently, and they're right. It really was exactly like they were saying. So I think moving forward, I think they're going to be in a much better place. We made some recommendations on for those delinquent units to get into them faster, to really clear out some of those, so you don't let this linger for a long time.
Yeah, they're putting themselves at risk by just kind of forgetting about these units until there's enough of them to really, warrant something as far as an auction or something like that. Right. But without doing that, they're putting themselves at a risk for harborage areas of rodents and insects.
Yeah. So this one was great. It was a good success. I know we were all excited about it. Yeah. And boy, the ramen noodles just killed me. The packages completely emptied. I'm hoping we can get some of those pictures and stuff.
Hopefully they'll send them over. They took pictures of the units when they auctioned off them, and so hopefully we'll be able to provide those.
Yeah. We get real excited about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a little goofy, but that's how we roll.
It's exciting to get a win or to be proven right. We put a lot of effort in trying to solve these problems, and so for us to be able to get some evidence to help support what we're saying does make a big difference.
Yeah. So check us out on LinkedIn and YouTube, our webpage, perimatech.com, and give us a call if we can help you out. Thanks.
Thank you.